Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Oklahoma confirmed its first case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in a commercial flock this past week. To learn more about the situation, we turn to Dr. Rosslyn Biggs, our OSU Extension veterinarian and beef cattle specialist.
Anytime we have a disease identified in a flock or a herd, we're in those initial steps right now, and so they've identified highly pathogenic avian influenza, and with that, any of those affected birds have been depopulated. With that comes a control zone around that location, and there's additional testing of any other poultry locations, both commercial as well as backyard, domestic type birds that would be privately owned, and additional testing in that control zone, and then typically there's a surveillance zone that extends past that to make sure that are we dealing with this virus just in one location, or do we have it in multiple locations? There's also movement restrictions and quarantines in that control zone of poultry themselves as well as poultry products in general, to make sure that if in fact we do have it beyond the one premises, that we're not extending it or sending it somewhere else.
What's kind of the time frame to do the testing and kind of see if it is spread farther than the one location identified?
Both the industry as well as Oklahoma Department of Ag, in conjunction with USDA, have activated their avian influenza emergency plans. They practice for these type of events, and so it is really immediate. There are laboratories both in Oklahoma. Our Oklahoma Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory is on point, as well as their counterparts in Arkansas, in getting testing run as soon as they can receive it from these locations.
This time of year, the risk for avian influenza in small and large flocks can be higher, right?
Absolutely. We worry about avian influenza, in particular highly pathogenic avian influenza, year round. But with this time of year, with the changes and the movement of migratory waterfowl, it's really an enhanced risk. And so we want to make sure that all of our flocks, whether they're large or small operations, have improved, stepped up their biosecurity, particularly in light of this announcement. But also, if we have individuals that are hunting migratory waterfowl, so think ducks, geese, that kind of thing, we want to make sure that there are appropriate precautions, that we're not bringing this virus, which is oftentimes found and doesn't necessarily impact our migratory waterfowl, that they're not bringing it back and potentially exposing domestic poultry at their households, for instance.
Let's talk about what symptoms may look like, or what do I need to look out for in terms of my own flock?
Right. When it comes to highly pathogenic avian influenza, it's important to remember that with very rare exclusion, it's going to cause death, and very sudden death in our birds. There is not a readily available vaccine for this virus, and so in addition to sudden death, we can see sneezing and coughing, we can see nasal discharge, there can be diarrhea, weak, lethargic birds that really don't want to eat. There can also be misshapen eggs. All of those things can be introductory type signs. But first and foremost, in many cases, it will be a flock that is relatively normal one day, and then there is significant deaths the next day.
And it is the responsibility of the livestock owner, the bird owner, to report that if that happens. How does that work?
Absolutely. One of the key things is if we have bird owners that suspect, in any way suspect, we want those bird owners to report and ask for assistance in additional diagnostics. The easiest way to do that can be to call the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture at their line that is available, their phone line, and or contact their private veterinarian. As a veterinarian, I have a responsibility if I suspect highly pathogenic avian influenza frankly of any kind, to report that because it is a highly contagious and really impactful disease to our birds.
Now, the Department of Ag and USDA are the lead agencies on this, I guess is the way to say that, but Extension is also helping and has resources. What does that look like?
Our Extension group has put together a number of informational resources that are readily available online. We encourage bird owners to be prepared in advance, but particularly when it comes to biosecurity, we have great online course that folks may want to take a look at, and then we also have a really great fact sheet that can outline those biosecurity practices that if for some reason a flock owner is not already doing these things, they really have got to implement those immediately.
Another question a lot of times people have is, what about when I want to eat chicken and eggs, which are obviously in just about everyone's home?
It's a big part of the diet at my house, and so when it comes to any poultry as well as eggs, we want to cook those to the appropriate temperatures that we regularly would. It's important to note that any of the infected birds would not enter the food chain, first and foremost, but that this virus is inactivated by those temperatures that we would normally cook our poultry and our eggs to.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Biggs. And for a link to the resources that Dr. Biggs mentioned, the fact sheets, as well as the online extension class, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.